How to not get weeds in your paver patio? I'd be happy to. I'm gonna first establish where your lawn is. All these little guys are gonna be the blades of grass. And let's say that you want your paver patio to be from here to here. You've got to first dig out your foundation for that paver patio. One of the most crucial things in the paver patio is you have got to compact the subsoil floor here. And don't use one of those small little chintzy compactors. You've got to use one with some serious force to it. If you don't compact that subsoil hard enough, all the stone that you've put on top of that soil is going to eventually sink. Step 3, install a fabric. This fabric membrane is going to separate your soil from your stone at all points. Step 4, you can start installing your base stone. You're only going to install 3 inches at a time before you got to come back in with that massive compactor and compact all this stone. After compacting that initial 3 inches, you can start installing the next 3-inch layer of stone. After that next layer of stone is in, what are you going to do? You're going to compact it again. After you've got all of your big stone in, you can lay your bedding course. Now, some people use sand for this. We prefer to use what's called a limestone chip. Once you've got your bedding layer in, you can move to step 5, which is screed your base. What that essentially means is you're going to make the bed that the pavers are going to sit on very flat and make sure that the rainwater is pitching the way that you want it to. Once that's done, you can start laying your pavers. Ideally, these pavers are going to sit kind of flush with the top of the grass. And for the sake of this video, I am really over exaggerating the gaps that are between these pavers. I need room to illustrate what's going to go in between those pavers to tell you why you're not going to have weeds. Once you've laid all your pavers, you can move on to step 7, and that is sweep in your polymeric sand. This sand is going to get filled in between all of these individual joints. Here's the thing, those pavers are so tight together that the gaps in between them are very, very slim. And as you're sweeping all the sand into the pavers, because those joints are so tight together, you're going to get some sand that is just trapped at the very top of the joint, and there's all of this dead space at the bottom of the joint that didn't get any sand. And that's why step 8 is vibrate your sand into the joint. Here's what that means practically. There are machines that we own that its only job is to vibrate the surface of those pavers. They're called roller compactors. And they literally just go back and forth on the top of those pavers. What that's doing is taking this little sand that got lodged in at the very top of that joint. It rattles the pavers and the sand to make the top lodged sand fall into the bottom of the joint. So when it's done, that sand is going to be sitting down here, which leaves us with more space to fill. So what do we got to do? Sand round 2. Yes, that's right. This process done properly involves sweeping the sand in twice. You do it once, then you run a vibratory compactor over it so you don't have a false sense of confidence that that joint is completely filled, and then you do it again. So at the end of the day, this entire paver joint is completely packed full of polymeric sand. So what does this all mean in relation to weeds growing through a paver patio? Number 1, the soil compaction. If you remember, when we first dug this patio out, we had to compact this subsoil. Rock solid soil is not a habitat for any kind of vegetation. There's a reason why farmers have to go out and till up the land before they put their seeds in there. Soil has to be loose for a good root system to thrive. Number 2, we have a fabric in the hole. As if the soil compaction wasn't enough, we have a very thick layer of fabric. What are you commonly putting under your landscape stone to prevent yourself from getting weeds? Fabric. So far, we have established that there is no chance that weeds are going to come up from that sub-base soil and come up and sprout through those pavers. The third reason why you're not going to have weeds are that your paver joints are packed full of sand. If we'd initially only done 1 round of polymeric sanding and not 2, what would happen to that top portion of the paver gap? It's going to get filled with something. There's dust that'll get in here. There's dirt that'll get in here. That's some kind of debris that's going to get in here. And over time, this thing is going to fill up with some sort of soil, the things that weeds grow in. So up will sprout this guy and maybe some moss right here. To avoid that, it's crucial that this joint stays entirely filled with polymeric sand. Now, over a long period of time, and I'm talking between 5 and 8 years, polymeric sand will start to erode out of the paver joints. It is the only maintenance item on a paver patio, and thank God for it. It's not like concrete, which cracks, and then you have to jackhammer it out and get rid of it. What do you do when that starts happening? You get out a pressure washer and clean this joint out completely as if we had just laid that patio. You wait a day, all the moisture has to be completely gone. You go back out and you fill that thing up with polymeric sand again. Boom, you're good for another 5 to 8 years.